What if ADHD and autism aren't disorders to fix, but a different way of experiencing reality by design? Let me ask you something. What if you gave an autistic person room to breathe, a world where things slowed down, where there was less pressure to perform, less expectation to fit into a system that was never built for them, a world that valued connection, authenticity, creativity, where they were encouraged to explore what lights them up, to follow their curiosity, to see patterns, to question, to create? Do you think their mind would expand? Do you think their nervous system would feel more at ease? Do you think the world would begin to change? Because what I see right now is a world where more and more neurodivergent individuals are waking up. There's a deeper awareness coming online, a deeper sensitivity, a deeper connection, and that's not random. That's not a mistake. That's by design. But the world we live in doesn't yet know how to meet that. Because of that, many neurodivergent individuals grow up feeling like they don't quite fit in. Not because something is wrong with them, but because the world around them doesn't meet them at the depth they experience life. So they begin to question themselves. They learn to mask, to adapt, to quiet parts of who they are just to belong. And over time, that can create a sense of disconnection from their own identity, not fully knowing who they are or how to express what they feel so deeply inside. But underneath all of that, there's nothing missing. There's depth, there's awareness, there's a way of experiencing the world that simply hasn't been understood yet. And what many of these individuals don't need is to be fixed. They need space, room to breathe, room to feel, room to be met in the depth they naturally exist in. And maybe they're not here to fit into this world. Maybe they're here to help change it. Keep listening. Welcome to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. If you're loving our videos, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Inner Magic Academy podcast. I'm your host, Peter Magic. So if you're someone who's ever felt different, like you see things others don't, or feel things more deeply than those around you, this episode is for you. So over the last few episodes, what we've explored is how the world shapes perception, why we normalize the state of the world, how that impacts mental and emotional well-being, and how to regulate within it. So if you're listening to this for the first time, this is the first episode, I highly recommend that you go back to episode 24, because I'm kind of building a series of episodes that are kind of, continuing to expand to where we are right here, right now. And it's going to make so much more sense for you if you start listening from those episodes. But this episode, what we're going to start to do is we're opening a new layer, because what if the people who struggle the most in this world are actually the ones who see it most clearly? So if you're someone who's right here, right now listening to this, you're someone who experiences the world in depth, right? So you're someone who thinks more deeply, feels more deeply, right? There's something that makes you have a deeper awareness, of reality, right? So you're more aware of things that are playing out beyond what plays out in front of your eyes, right? So you have this sense of seeing patterns, of seeing things not only within yourself. You notice this in particular environments, there's certain behaviors, certain patterns that play out through others. You notice you have a deeper sense of connection with a deeper aspect of yourself, right? So you experience the world more in depth, which also means that you're someone also who struggles with self-regulation, because look at the world we live in, right? And just how misaligned, how out of alignment so many people are, so many people on this planet struggle to regulate, right? To be in the flow. There's so much suppression, there's so much masking, there's so much going on. Most people only know how to be in survival. And when you're someone who experiences this world more in depth, you may be aware that you fall under the spectrum of autism, ADHD, or you have this newfound awareness, and everything in your life up until this point now starts to make sense. Why it's been such a struggle, why you've struggled with anxiety, with mental health, to really feel more safe and secure in your own skin. There's a reason for this, because the planet we're in right here, right now, in this moment in time. There's so much, they're distracting us, taking our focus and our attention away. There's so much they're stimulating us and overstimulating us, or we're feeling this sense of uneasiness in our own body, in our own nervous system, and we struggle then to self-regulate. We struggle with having feeling more grounded, feeling more at peace and ease in our own body. And then what happens on the outside, we then project a version of ourselves that, doesn't always come from an authentic place. We're masking, we're suppressing, we're holding ourselves back. We think we're too much. We think we're too emotional. We think we're, all of these labels that are given to us in society, right? So it's so important to understand, if you're someone who experiences the world in this way, that there's nothing wrong with you, because I'm going to share a deeper perspective here on all of this, because when you start to piece, the pieces of your own puzzle together, you actually realize that you are here on purpose to create change within what you're in, because you experience the world as you do, and because you struggle with a dysregulated nervous system, you struggle with feeling more safe and secure in your own skin, you struggle. And most of us that are neurodivergent are in survival mode, and we struggle to keep doing the same things day in, day out. And so what we do is we do everything that we can to cope and survive in the ways that we've learned to, right, early on in our childhood. And a lot of the ways that we cope, they're not healthy for us, but it's all we've known. It's all that's been mirrored to us. And just look how deep in society all of these, people struggle with addiction, people struggle with so many different things out there, and especially technology and mobile phones. And so many people are just glued to their mobiles. They're always seeking something outside of themselves to distract, to numb, to avoid. There's so many different things that we can go into, but this episode in particular is all about having this deeper level of awareness and understanding that you, as someone who experiences the world in this way, you're actually here to create change in the world, because you experience the world in such depth, which means you have, you can see through the illusion of what plays out in front of you, and you know what's not in alignment, right? And so you are here within what you're in to create change, to share the truths, to share the deeper truth on how you're experiencing reality. So we're going to go more deeper into this now. So when we actually talk about ADHD and autism in society, the conversation is often framed around what's wrong, what needs to be fixed, what doesn't fit. But what if it's not a deficit? What if it's a different operating system, a different way of thinking, processing, feeling, and that doesn't align with how the current world is structured? Because this current world rewards speed, productivity, conformity, but neurodivergent minds often move differently. They go deeper, they question more, they feel more, and that difference, it isn't a problem. The mismatch here is a world that doesn't meet them at the level they experience life. And when that happens, it's easy to start believing something is wrong with you, instead of recognizing you're simply experiencing the world differently. So, breaking all of this up, you're someone who understands that this reality is completely out of alignment. It's upside down in how we're all operating in this world. Everything is about speed, is about productivity. It's almost like, as human beings, we're looked upon as robots, as if we don't have emotions, as if we don't have, as if we're not affected by energy and everything that is going on. So we're not affected by people suppressing or people projecting or anything around the environments we're in, and whatever we're feeling and we're sensing and we're picking up through that, right, in our thoughts or through our sensations and what we're experiencing through the vibration in that environment, we're not affected by that, right? Unfortunately, I'm going to tell you right here, right now, we absolutely are. And the reason why, right now in this world, there's so much going on, there's so much distracting us, so much that is keeping us all in this state of dysregulation. So many people are suppressing, masking, holding themselves back. So underneath the surface, right, what people are not seeing in front of their face, there's so much there that's creating such a dysfunctional, dysregulated planet, right? Everything's out of alignment on this planet. And so do you not think those who are more in touch with a deeper part of reality and can not only see through that illusion, they also, think more deeply, feel more deeply, they have a deeper sense of everything that's going on far beneath the surface, right? Far beneath what is playing out in front of their eyes. Absolutely, they're the ones who are going through the most mental health struggles, the most dysregulation. They're the ones going through the most struggles on the planet right here, right now. But they are also the ones that are here to create change. And it isn't easy for them because all they have known is how to be in survival, and they struggle day in, day out, doing the same thing systematically, what this world wants them to do. It doesn't align with how they're here to be and how they're here to experience life. And so they might have a vision, they might have something they want to create in the world, something positive, something to create the change in this world, but they're not supported. They're not given the accommodations, all the things that they need, the environment to flourish. It's like they're not planted in the garden that is there to nurturing and there to kind of support them, right? You think of being like a seed being planted in a garden that's completely neglected, right? Mentally and emotionally. Do you not think that they're going to struggle to grow and to bloom and to flourish in this world? Absolutely, they're going to struggle. So I'm going to tell you right here, right now, as someone who's experiences the world on a far deeper level, through my emotions, I'm affected by so much around me. Everything around me constantly affects how I'm feeling, right? And all I've known is constant disappointment, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of impatience. All I've known is to experience anxiety and dysregulated nervous system, struggle with my mental health, struggle with a sense of identity within my own self. It's taken me a very long time to start breaking out of this, to start shifting my perception, to start changing things from the inside out. And so I'm able to communicate, express things on a more deeper level now because I've gone through this process. It hasn't been easy, and I'm still affected by absolutely everything around me, and I'm even more in touch with that, right? But because I've shifted my perception, I know that I'm a change maker because I see and I understand things in depth, that I'm here to create change on the planet. And so if you're someone who's a deep thinker and a deep feeler and experiences reality in a similar way, then you're also someone who's here to create change. Right. Like I mentioned, I've been hinting this in the last few episodes, how, we're here by design. The way you experience the world, it's actually by design. It's done on purpose. You're planted here like a seed to create change, and you're not the only one, and I'm not the only one. There are millions and millions of people on the planet now, and people incarnating here, right now, right, that are here to create change, and it needs to be done on purpose in this way to shift out of what we're in, because if we continue to operate in the same way, we're not going to make it as a species in the planet. We're not going to make it. Just look how much conflict and chaos and so much going on in the world that is, people are struggling to keep their head above water. And even those who don't experience the world in depth, they also struggling to an extent and being somewhat aware of a little bit of what's going on, right? But we, the ones who are neurodivergent, who fall under the spectrum, a lot of us really, really struggle day in, day out. And this, to me, is so important that I continue to share these podcast episodes, because it's not only an outlet, it's not only a healthy way for me to express, it's also a way to help shift things on the planet, because I'm going to naturally attract those who experience the world in depth. And so I know that I'm giving them a voice. I'm giving them a deeper sense of, you're not the only one who's experiencing this in the world. There's so many of us who are experiencing this, and I'm being brave and courageous to start talking up, expressing all these different topics I'm going to go into. And being neurodivergent, there's many different topics that I want to continue to expand on. So this is so, so important that you realize that, regardless of what is playing out on the planet right here, right now, we are actually going through seeing more conflict. We're seeing more of all the things that are playing out on purpose. Like things need to come up beneath the surface to see how dysfunctional and out of alignment things are on the planet. It needs to happen in this way for, right, the human collective perception, the people that are maybe not aware of more things that are deeper, to start to see what is out of alignment, what is not functioning on the planet. Because the more of us that open up and express what's truly going on, we're bringing more awareness to people on the planet. And do you not think then people start to question things more? They start to be more curious. And when they start to ask these deeper questions, right, they're starting to go underneath the surface and get more in touch with what's really going on underneath the surface, right? When you start to question reality, when you start to question everything you've been programmed to believe in this world, things start to shift, and they shift naturally. Like, this is you speaking to a higher consciousness. This is you going beyond your current perception and where you are right here, right now, because you are questioning that and you're expanding that. And as you expand more and more and more, you're going to start to go deeper and start to connect those dots and realize, through energy, that actually, what is going on the planet right here, right now, it's all part of this change. All the solar activity that's happening, all of this light that more and more of us neurodivergent beings are here anchoring in. It's part of this change. It's part of bringing more of these deeper parts of what are playing out to the surface. Because as our consciousness expands, right, also the human collective shadow starts to rise beneath the surface. And so people start to see more of what has been playing out beneath the surface. And that is what you're starting to see a bit more of in the world. But this is only surface level. It goes far more deeper. The dysfunction and toxicity and all the stuff that's been going on in this world for eons, we're only just starting to scratch the surface of that. If you're liking this episode, you'll love our free masterclass, Unmask Your Relationships. Unmask Your Relationships is for anyone who craves deeper, more fulfilling relationships, especially if you're a highly sensitive person or people pleaser. In this training, you'll discover what's holding you back and learn how to actually break free from people pleasing and validation seeking. Understand why you attract certain people and situations into your life, and start to identify and transform the parts of you that hide behind your ego's mask. And this training is absolutely free. So watch it now by going to innermagicacademy.com/unmask. Okay, so I'm going to continue to piece things together here for you, right? So I'm here to expand awareness, expand your perception. So a lot of neurodivergent individuals are highly sensitive, right? So not just emotionally, but in how they process the world. They notice things others don't. That's through patterns, through inconsistencies, through emotional undercurrents. They can feel when something is off, even if they can't always explain it. And in a world that avoids depth, that level of awareness can feel overwhelming. But what if that sensitivity is actually inside, right? So because you're someone who experiences the world in depth, because you have a deeper sensitivity to your environment and everything that is playing out through energy, it also means that you have a deeper sense of awareness as to things that are far more deeper beyond what plays out in front of your eyes, not only through your own experience, not only through others and then behaviors and all of the environmental factors that are playing out. There's so much that you see, right? So you can see, you have an insight, and that also means that you have a deeper connection to your own soul. And that also means that right now, through the solar activity, you're anchoring more light into your being. You're one of the ones that are, there's almost like here, like a pillar anchoring this light to create change. And that's part of why you are deeply sensitive. It's actually your soul's blueprint. This is what I've come to know and understand on a far more deeper level, and realizing that, my God, my soul holds such a high frequency. And that's not being big headed. That is understanding just why I've struggled so much in this world. Because think of you trying to anchoring so much light into this reality that's, it's so heavy, that's so dense. There's so much that you not only carry generationally within your cells, there's so much that your nervous system's picking up. There's so much that you absorbed early on in your childhood. When your subconscious was completely open, you absorbed all of this and you embodied, and you made that a part of your identity. And it made you so out of alignment, and made you look at reality and yourself through this distorted lens. And that also meant that you struggled to embody more of your soul's light and frequency and energy on the planet. But what's happening now through this solar activity is you're going through this shift, and there's so much that's coming up beneath the surface for you to face within yourself, for you to shift your energy into your being and meet what continues to arise beneath the surface, and stop focusing on everything that's going on around you, even though you're deeply affected by everything that's playing out, right? You're someone who is here going through so much change right here, right now. And I'll tell you something, in particular over the past couple of months, just how much I've noticed in my body, how much change has happened on not only a physical level. I've noticed so much that within even what I put in and consume in my body, things that I eat, that I used to consume, there's certain things that I'm more sensitive to now, and I struggle to digest. And this is done on purpose because we're going through this change, and because we're anchoring more light and frequency into our being, we're shifting how we, what we consume on the outside. Not only what we eat and consume, but what we're consuming in terms of consuming things that are toxic in this world. Chemically, all the things that, like, I can go so deep here if I want to, but I don't want to in this episode, because this episode is just to share with you, what you're going through right here, right now. It's a lot. You're going through a lot. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, you being here right now, listening to this, you are going to be struggling a lot in the world right now. And I just want to share with you that, it's all happening for you, for this change. And if you think over the next 5 and 10 years where things will go as you shift right now, you're one of the first people on the planet that is going through this change, because you come here with your soul has a deep sensitivity on purpose, for a reason. So you are here to anchor in that change. You're one of the first ones that are here to anchor that change on the planet. So that's why you're more aware. That's why you have the urge to speak up now. You want to share things. You want to, be more authentic, and you struggle to fit into that old ways of being, old ways of operating in the world. It doesn't align with you anymore. And that's on purpose. And so this is part of the shift and the change. You are a change maker on the planet. You're put here on purpose to create that change. And it's so goddamn uncomfortable right now for you to go through this shift and this change. But you're not alone, right? You're not alone. There's millions of us on the planet that are going through this. So I just want to acknowledge that you're doing the best you can with where you are right here, right now, in a world that doesn't support you and give you all of the things you need to flourish and create the life that you are already worthy of experiencing and living right here, right now. You are doing the best you can amongst all of this. Okay, so I know I go off on my little tangents, but I just allow myself to get in the flow. So I want to bring your attention to this. So this is where things start to go a lot deeper. So what if neurodivergent individuals are here to mirror what's out of alignment? So when an autistic child becomes overwhelmed, when their system can no longer process everything, it doesn't come out quietly, it overflows. And instead of asking, what is this showing us? We try to manage it, to contain it, to suppress it. But what if that overflow is reflecting something real, something authentic, a world that is too fast, too loud, too overwhelming? What if they're not breaking down, but responding honestly to an environment that isn't sustainable? This is just reiterating all of the things that I've just been discussing, because when you look at an autistic child and how they struggle, how they're constantly overstimulated or not stimulated in the ways that they need, because this world's asking them to be someone they're not. They're trying to fit them into a mold. They're trying to suppress and squeeze them, and also saying that there's something wrong with them for the way they're experiencing reality, and they're completely misunderstood. And there are so many parents that are doing the best they can because they themselves, they could also fall under the spectrum, but they're not yet. They don't yet understand things on a more deeper level to really learn how to meet them, far more deeper where they need to be met. And everyone on the planet, they're doing the best they can with where they are. And we're only starting to understand autism and ADHD a little bit more. There's more people speaking up about it. There's a new awareness around this. And this isn't, this is on purpose, because we're all starting to, as we go through this change, we're becoming more deeply aware and we're anchoring in more light, and this is bringing more awareness on the planet. So when you look at a child, that what they're actually doing, when you look at someone who experiences the world more in depth through a deep sensitivity in terms of how they feel and their emotions, picking up everything around them, the environment, the nervous system, they're also that deep thinker, right? So there's someone who, what they're doing as they start to unmask and unpeel those layers, and as they start to express more of an authentic version of themselves, they start to mirror what's out of alignment. And a lot of what they express is coming from years and years of suppression, years and years of those younger versions of themselves that suppress so much. This is what I've realized that as I've gone down this path. A lot of those intense emotions and feelings that I'm experiencing, a lot of that is now coming up to the surface, and it's allowing me to heal those younger versions of myself, because I know that now that I'm holding space for them to express, I'm letting these emotions out in a healthier way. For example, doing this podcast and sharing these deeper insights, it's allowing my inner child to finally express what they couldn't express in the past, what they weren't safe, didn't feel safe to express, what they suppressed. And through having this deeper awareness now, I'm able to meet them on a far more deeper level through my consciousness, allowing my soul, right, to meet those younger versions of myself. And so that not only gives me a deeper insight, it allows them to finally feel safe to express through me, and I hold space for them, and I let myself be as authentic as possible. And sometimes whatever I'm going to share is going to come out in a messy way. It's going to come out in an intense way, but that intensity is by design, right? It holds a tone, it holds a frequency of truth. That is what I'm here to share. And that is what many neurodivergents, particularly people who fall under the spectrum, right? Those autistic people that you're seeing in the world, they're going through a lot of this change. They're one of the first to go through this change. And we need to, for us who are completely misunderstood on the planet, the more we start to normalize, express really what's going on beneath the surface, the more we normalize these things on the planet, the more people can start to expand to and meet, those deeper parts of ourselves, those deeper parts of how we experience this reality, through our neurodivergence. And that's why it's so important to to get in touch with those deeper parts of ourselves, to have an outlet, a healthy way of expressing that out. And, and this is all part of it. Okay, I'm going to start to take this one step deeper, and this is just going to solidify and ground a lot of the things that I've been discussing. So, what if this isn't random? What if this is part of a soul blueprint, not something to fix, but something chosen to experience the world differently, to feel more, to question more, not to settle for what's out of alignment? Because when you don't fit into the system, you're forced to see it. And when you see it, begin to question it. And when you question it, you begin to change it, because maybe this deeper awareness is here for a reason. It's here for a purpose. And you that experience the world in depth are here you're here on purpose already, right? You're planted here like a seed to create change, because you do see through the distortion. You do see through the dysregulation, the dysfunction of this world. It's completely out of alignment and completely upside down into how you're here to live by design. And that's why you're struggling the most on the planet. And so in that struggle is where you're here to shift out of and change the perception and the programming of what you've embodied unconsciously, what this world has mirrored to you to normalize and to accept, and try and fit you into a mold and squeeze you and suppress you into, you're here to expand and be the most authentically aligned person that you can be on the planet. That also means that you're here to go on this journey now of being courageous and expanding beyond what you've been suppressed in and squeezed into. And that is you being brave and courageous and allowing more soul into your experience to guide you, and follow in your intuition and speak up and share the deeper truths on how you're experiencing this reality. So even though you're someone who experiences the world in depth, you're a deep thinker, you're a deep feeler, you might be starting to become aware that you fall under the spectrum. We may have known this for years already, right? The challenge with where we are right here, right now, is that the current world isn't built for this. It's built on structure, on control, on efficiency, not on depth, not on sensitivity, not on authenticity. So instead of adapting the system, we try to adapt the individual. We try to make them fit. But what if the direction is the other way around? What if the world needs to evolve to meet this level of awareness? So as human beings right here, right now, we think we're evolving. Technologically, we think we're evolving. But as you can see, for those of us who experience the world in depth, we feel this world is completely out of alignment, how dysfunctional it is, right? How dysregulated people are, how people are following these old ways of being that are just, it's living in survival mode, and it's not living in alignment, right? And that is because there's so much distortion, manipulation, there's a controlled perception, there's an agenda there to keep us only aware at a surface level as to what's really going on, because as we're easier to control that way, because we're not in touch with a deeper part of ourselves. We're then not able to express that out from a more deeper place. And so we can't then see through what's playing out at a surface level, right? So we're not robots, right? So we are beings who experience the world in depth. And so if you look out in the world, most people are working 9 to 5. Most people are just struggling to make a living and just afford the necessities, right? That is not living. That's being in survival, and that's done on purpose. And we shouldn't be where we are right here, right now on the planet. There shouldn't be people living on the streets. The mental health crisis that we're experiencing in the world right here, right now, is showing you how dysfunctional, out of alignment we are on the planet, right? These people are mirroring what is completely out of alignment and upside down in this world. So that's the challenge. The challenge is, we're not supported to create this change on the planet, even though that we're the change makers. We're the ones that see what's wrong with it. We're the ones that mirror what's out of alignment. We're the ones that are speaking the deeper truth. We're the ones who are also the most judged in society for having a different view and perspective on how we see the world, because we go far more deeper than most people are willing to go into face within themselves. So that's where we are, right? Amongst all of this, we've still got to continue to expand beyond what we're in, what we're experiencing systematically, what continues to play out. We've still got to continue to peel those layers back of conditioning. We're going to still continue to be brave. We're going to still continue to follow a path that feels more aligned. This is all part of the change that we're going through, and it's very uncomfortable right now. And there's so much that's happening in the world to continue to distract us, pull our focus and attention away from going within. Because when we go within, we start to connect with a deeper part of ourselves. We start to anchor in more of our soul's light and our frequency. And that is what actually starts to create change in the world, because we then mirror that on the outside. And the more of us who do this, we anchor this change, and this change brings more awareness. It brings more of that shadow aspect of the human collective consciousness beneath the surface, which then brings more awareness to other human beings on the planet, which then is part of shifting and changing things on the planet. Okay, so this is me shifting your perspective on how you see yourself in this current reality, right? Experiencing the world in depth as you do. So if you've ever felt different, this is how I want to reframe it for you. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not the problem. You might just be seeing something that others haven't fully seen yet. And that doesn't make your path easier, but it gives it meaning, because the more you understand yourself, the less you try to fit, and the more you begin to express what's true. You begin to express what's real, and all of the messiness that is playing out, all of the dysregulation, all of the things that are playing out through a distorted lens, right? It's important that you hold space for everything that's underneath the surface to start to express that in the messiest, authentic way possible. And so that is you actually starting to notice and see and hold space for things that have been suppressed for most of your life, things that you've held yourself back to express because you're in fear of being judged, for having a different perspective, for the intensity in which you experience this world. It's important to have an outlet to let that out in a healthier way. And so I recommend, whatever that is for you, whether that's through writing a story, whether that's through sharing, like this, sharing a podcast, or doing something to have an outlet to express that, to let that out, so you can see that in front of you, and you can then continue to expand and meet those deeper parts of yourself through the process. It's a process. This is part of you coming back into alignment. It's going to be messy. The healing journey that we're all going through is messy. It's uncomfortable. It's going to bring up things that we're afraid to share, because we're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of having this different perspective and opinion, because we're afraid of conflict and confrontation. And many of us that maybe have wore this people-pleasing mask for so many years, we're used to wearing that. And so we've got to face that discomfort. We've got to be as authentic as possible. That's not us projecting. That's just us mirroring the truth as to what is really happening underneath the surface. And the more we go on this path, the more authentically aligned, the more empowered we are within ourselves, right? And the more in alignment, and the more we start to mirror the tone of truth. It comes from a more deep place, a place that's not coming from a place of dysregulation and dysfunction and place of fear and insecurity. It starts to come from a place that feels true to yourself, and you feel more in the flow and at ease when you start to express from that tone. Again, whether that's through your voice, whether that's through writing, whatever it is, The more you do this, the more you get in touch with a deeper part of yourself, the more you start to mirror the truth on the outside. And that is all part of the shift and the change that we need to go on. And we're all doing this individually within ourselves and on a collective level. It's all part of this change. We're coming to the end of today's episode, so I want you to take a moment to reflect. Where have you been trying to fit into something that doesn't actually feel aligned for you? And what would change if you started seeing your sensitivity as awareness instead of a problem? So if something came up for you while listening, you're always welcome to share it. And this is why I'm continuing to expand in this community, continuing to hold space for those deeper parts of, ourselves. It's the deeper parts of how we experience the reality as neurodivergent beings, as beings who experience the world more in depth and how we think and how we feel, what we're picking up through our senses in this reality. We are more in depth because we're here to create change on the planet. This is all part of it. And so that's why I'm creating this whole community, this whole space, right, where we can finally feel seen and heard for the depth of how we experience this world. Awareness is where change begins. What makes you different may be the very thing that helps you see clearly. And the more you trust that, the more you step into who you were always meant to be. This is the Inner Magic Academy podcast, and I'm really glad you're here. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and give us a like or even a comment. It really does help so much in getting our work out there to the people who need it. We're so grateful for you being here, and we'll see you for the next episode.